A closure is the combination of two things. 1, a function, and 2, reference to values used by the function but are defined outside of it. The only difference between a normal function and a closure function is that it uses values that are defined outside of it. Let's go through some examples so you can quickly grasp the idea. Can you tell if function 1 is a closure? Function 1 uses a variable a defined outside of the function, therefore it's a closure. How about function 2? Function 2 uses a variable defined only within the function, so this is not a closure. Let's take a look at one more example. Function 3 is defined within another function named outer. Function 3 uses a variable a defined outside the function, so it is a closure. Now you should have a basic understanding of what closure is. Let's introduce an important related concept. In JavaScript, you can use variables in a closure even after a function is returned. Let me show you what I mean. This function is very similar to the one we just saw, but instead of calling the function 3 right away, we return it. When we call function 3 here, what do you think will happen? It works exactly like before. In other languages like C or Java, you cannot use local variables once a function is returned. In this example, outer is called and returned, but we can still access the local variable a. This is because, in JavaScript, functions create a closure when they are declared. So after the function is returned, we can still access the local variables in the closure. The best way to understand closure is through examples, so let's walk through some together. Take a look at the code. It creates an array called result and another array called list with values 1, 2, and 3. It then uses a for loop to iterate over the list array. Inside the loop, a new function for each iteration is created and pushed into the result array. These functions are closures that reference the value of I from the outer loop. After the first loop, the code uses another for loop to execute each function stored in the result array. What do you think the output will be? Pause this video if you need it. You might expect this code to output the values from the list array, like 1, 2, and 3. However, the actual output is this. This unexpected behavior is due to how JavaScript handles closures and variable scoping. Let's break it down. The first loop goes through the list array one by one. For each number in the list, it creates a new function and puts it in the result array. These functions are closures. They can access variables from the outer function scope, including the list and I variables. But there's a problem. Due to variable scoping in JavaScript, the closures don't capture the value of I when they are created. Instead, they capture the reference to the I variable itself. By the time the second loop runs and calls the functions in the result array, the value of I has changed to 3, one more than the number of items in the list array. When each function in the result array is called, it tries to look at list. But I is now 3, which is too big for the list array. To fix this, we need to give each function its own separate I value that doesn't change. We can do this in two ways, using an immediately invoked function expression, or use let instead of var. Both of these ways create a new scope for I each time the loop runs. This way, each function remembers the correct I value it was created with. With this fix, the functions will print the numbers we want.